I'm Gregory Astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of July, and in particular the full moon that we have coming up in Aquarius on the 23rd or the 24th of July, depending on where in the world you live. Now, the energy is very strong all the way through July, and if we look at the mid-month where I'm going to start, it is super strong because on the 16th and 17th we have the Sun moving through 23, 24 of Cancer, really highlighting the Eris-Pluto square. So Sun, 23, 24 of Cancer, squaring Eris at 24 of Aries, and the Sun is opposing Pluto at 25 of Capricorn. So that's a very tight T-square. So it's, as I say, highlighting this long-running Eris-Pluto square that we've had all the way through 2020, all the way through 2021. We're going to have it. The last exact square between Eris and Pluto is in October. That's going to be an important month, I feel. So just to remind you, Eris is in Aries, as I say, 24 of Aries, and she is a warrior archetype. She's the sister of Mars. She's known as the goddess of discord. She's also the female awakener. And in myth, she was the only goddess that wasn't invited to the important wedding on Mount Olympus. So she turned up anyway and created chaos because she threw a golden apple into the group of goddesses and said, "For the fairest," and the resulting squabbles apparently allegedly led to the Trojan War. So she is somebody who stands for truth, for integrity, and also she represents people who feel unheard, who feel slighted and marginalized in society. And that's very interesting, particularly in Aries, where that energy is very strong. She's become known as the kind of feisty street fighter. But she's in this long-running clash to Pluto, square to Pluto, where Pluto and Capricorn represents top-down authorities and rules and regulations. And that has been really clear to see over the last 18 months in particular, where there have been hundreds of demonstrations and protests, etc. And they will be ongoing because this month, Eris's archetype becomes even stronger. Because on the 21st of July, it becomes stationary retrograde. Whenever a planet changes direction, it's like a huge tanker, grinding to a halt and then gradually moving off in a different direction. So it's barely moving right now. She's got a 560-degree orbit. But on the 21st, and a few days to either side of that, all of that symbolism of Eris that I've just been talking about will become magnified. And on that day as well, Mars is trining Eris, so it's energizing Eris from Leo, which is very much the sign of courage as well, standing in your courage. The next day, the 22nd, Mars is exactly quincunx Pluto. And whenever Mars is in a hard aspect to Pluto, this is about might makes right. It can be quite brutal. It can be tough. So these are going to be very dynamic yang days around about then. Then on the 23rd of the month, and this happens at 7:36 p.m. Pacific, and it happens at 3:36 a.m. UK time, the next day, the 24th, we have our full moon at 1 degree 26 of Aquarius. 1 degree 26 of Aquarius. So this is a full moon. So this is always within the month, the peak of the moon cycle. This is a cycle of closure or completion or culmination, and also often shining a light on what we didn't know, what you didn't know before. So see where 1 degree 26 of Aquarius falls in your chart. If you don't know, you can download a free birth chart from my website. Go to this link above. You can buy a 2-part series from my store, and you can use those videos. Literally, they start from zero knowledge. They can help you to find the meaning for every single update I ever do. So people are really, really loving them. So that is on 23rd, 24th of July. Now, earlier in the month, we had the new moon in Cancer. And at that new moon, we had very strong issues around power. Because at that new moon, 9th, 10th, we had Pluto opposing the sun and moon. And again, actually, it was highlighting the Eris-Pluto square. Again, we have Pluto very prominent here because it is in an out-of-sign conjunction to the moon and an out-of-sign opposition to the sun. So Pluto is at 25 of Capricorn, conjunct the moon at 1/26 of Aquarius. That's actually a conjunction, even though it's out of sign. And it's opposing the sun at 1 degree, 26 minutes of Leo. So again, we are going to be seeing very strong issues around power issues, who has the power. Remember, I was saying in the last video that power is a seesaw. And while Pluto is in Capricorn, it's very much representing the external power structures that we've had all through our lives, really. But we can choose where our power lies. We can choose to say, no, I am the center of my own power and I will create my life. So this is a lot around this whole theme around power issues. Many very interesting things about this full moon. Firstly, the moon at 1 degree of Aquarius is in between Pluto at 25 of Capricorn and Saturn at 10 of Aquarius. It's almost at the midpoint, really, of Saturn and Pluto. So it is, in a sense, an echo back to the 12th of January 2020 of that one-time hit Saturn-Pluto conjunction, this time around, in Capricorn. And hard aspects between Saturn and Pluto historically are always to do with hard times, adversity, more controls, more rules, more regulations, very much to do with the abuse of power. Historically, the last Saturn-Pluto conjunction we had in Capricorn, and I talked about this a lot last year, was in 1517, 1518, when the church had an enormous amount of power. And you'll remember me talking about Martin Luther and how he nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church, and his actions ultimately led to the Reformation. So it was a challenge to that degree of power in society, to the church. So we're going to get an echo of this time around. This is such a complex but fascinating full moon. So just be aware of possibly more rules, more regulations, etc., because also Pluto is opposing Mercury here. Mercury is at 21 of Cancer. So there could be an oppositions. Remember, as I said last time, there's often a sense of things coming, someone or something coming at us, and Mercury representing our communication, possibly our media, possibly our internet, that kind of thing. And indeed, even this conjunction between Pluto in Capricorn and the moon in Aquarius, that can have a theme also about greater control around internet or communications, social communications in general, or around freedoms. That's Aquarius too. So this is going to be very interesting to see, because really Capricorn also represents the past and Uranus represents the future. So here this out of sign conjunction is straddling, it's like a bridge, it's straddling the past and the future, and the moon is pulling away from Pluto. The moon is pulling away into Aquarius. So again, if we think about these issues of power, it's pulling away from Pluto and Capricorn, those traditional big top-down structures, institutions, corporations, governments in our lives, and pulling towards more Aquarian energy, which is always grassroots up. The power is with the people. It's local people forming together in a much more horizontal social structure. There's always emotional intensity at a full moon, because it's the peak of the moon cycle, but there is always emotional intensity with any hard moon Pluto aspect. And what's that emotional intensity going to be about? Again, it could be about, any constrictions or hard times or etc. And also around all of the Aquarian issues. Think around the Aquarian issues of truth, disclosure, big year of disclosure, 2021. Freedom, new technology, anything to do with the internet cutouts, more regulations around the internet, cyber attacks. There have been a lot of those, particularly in the US. We may see more of those at this time. And also it's about galactic energy, galactic news coming to us. So, and earthquakes, of course, which I've talked a lot about. So all and any of those themes may come to light at this time. What is very positive at this full moon is the moon is conjunct Chariklo. Do you remember that beautiful quality of archetype Chariklo, who was the wife of Chiron in myth? She helped to heal Chiron, and she represents that Buddhist eternal state of being where through her silence, through her state of being, she can help to heal people. She's the soul midwife. She's very present in transitions of life to death, but she's also very enabling in shifts of consciousness, evolution of consciousness, which of course is what we are in right now. So Chariklo is going to help us. She's part of this full moon, which is wonderful. Also, another aspect that's very important at this full moon is it isn't just an echo of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. It is also an echo of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that happened on December 21st last year. Because you remember there was huge amounts about this on the internet, on social media, because Jupiter and Saturn come together reliably every 20 years, but they repeat generally in the same element for about 200 years. And last December, they began a whole new roughly 200-year cycle in the element of air, because they met on the 21st of December last year in the air sign of Aquarius. And they will repeat, as I say, for roughly another 200 years in air. So this started a whole new paradigm in air, which is about connectivity. It's about information, about everything being connected and everything being fast. A lot of new technology coming in that can be very beneficial to us as well. So it's an echo of that. And that is very futuristic. Very futuristic. It's linked to, again, galactic beings as well coming into our lives. And remember, go back to the video I made last time about the new moon in Cancer and how one of the very dominant aspects we have this year, the square between Saturn and Uranus, began when Saturn-Uranus became conjunct in October 1988 on the galactic center. That in itself started a galactic era, if you like. So this is really fascinating. You know, the past and the future, so much in this full moon is about the past and also pulling away to the future. So this is like a crucible. This is really a crucible of this pivotal shift that we all know, we can feel that we're in right now, this shift between the past and the future. What really echoes that as well, if we go back to what I was talking about at the beginning about the sun highlighting in a T-square, the Eris-Pluto square, it isn't just a T-square, it's a cardinal grand cross. Because the wonderful dwarf planet Haumea is at 27 degrees of Libra. So we have the sun in Cancer, we have squaring Eris, we have the sun opposing Pluto, and the sun also squaring Haumea. So it's a cardinal grand cross. And part of that cardinal grand cross, as I've just described, is really the crumbling of the old order that we can see all around us. But Haumea is one of the symbols for the new earth. She's linked to the Hawaiian goddess of fertility. I talked about her before. The Hawaiian goddess of fertility could birth babies from various parts of her body. She had an incredible regenerative energy. She could, with her magic stick, the makalai, she could just summon food and wild food, seafood, instantly when the land had been laid waste. So she is a creative, regenerative energy. And she works on a quantum principle, really, of setting intention with her magic stick, and hey presto, food is produced, so people don't go hungry. The Makalai, to me, her magic stick, represents our increasing ability to set clear intentions and manifest whatever we want. And that's going to come on apace, because as we raise in frequency, we are going to be able to do that more and more. And to me, Homer's Makalai, her magic stick, is the real symbol for that. But she is one of the big symbols of New Earth. All of these Kuiper belt objects, as I've talked about before, work on quantum principles. They're very fine energy. They represent a higher state of being. And I believe they represent the next evolution in our consciousness, which is why they really fascinate me. So there are many very fascinating things about this full moon. Another interesting thing about it is that it is conjunct the moon and the ascendant of China's chart. In China's chart, the moon is at 3 of Aquarius, the ascendant is at 5. So this full moon at 1 degree 26 is conjunct China's moon and ascendant. So it may well be that China comes into the news in a bigger way. So as we move into following the new moon, if we move into, say, the 25th, we continue to have strong energy because the moon is opposing Mars in Leo. This is about strong conviction or even anger amongst the people, strong feelings. It is the same day that Mercury replaces the sun in that T-square with Eris and Pluto. So Mercury becomes much tighter with that Eris-Pluto T-square. So this is again about angry words, powerful words. Again, this may be happening personally for you, or it may be happening publicly. No doubt it'll be happening publicly. I have absolutely no doubt. So such strong energies. Another thing of note is that in this last week of July, we have 4 planets changing sign. On the 22nd, we have Venus moving from Leo into Virgo, and we have the sun moving into its own sign of Leo, where it's very happy. The sun just shines magnificently. So it's heart energy in the sign of Leo. On the 29th of the month, we have Mars moving from Leo, where it's been very courageous, into Virgo, where it starts to deal with the detail and the practicalities of what it wants to manifest. Not quite so comfortable in Virgo. That same day, the 29th, Jupiter, which is now retrograde, moves back. It reverses back into Aquarius. Jupiter, as you may remember me saying, absolutely raced through Aquarius. Normally it takes a year to go through a sign. It entered Aquarius in December last year. It left it in May, I believe, late May. But it is now retrograding back, and it will stay in Aquarius until the 29th of December. So when Jupiter is retrograding back through Aquarius, it is going to be cleaning up unfinished business of whatever it didn't finish properly when it was rushing through Aquarius. It's going to be very interesting to watch this. So whatever was unfolding in the first 5, well, the 6 months, including last December, the first 5 months of this year, around issues to do with science, to do with freedoms, etc., they are going to be backtracked in some way. And Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius will either correct or perfect or even change direction on whatever was unfolding rapidly in these first 5 months. So I'd really, really suggest you watch that, because that's going to be absolutely fascinating. People, because these are such huge times that we're living in, people are asking me a lot, what's the future? You know, what's going to happen? When is it all going to change? Well, it's already changing. You know, New Earth is already here, and people are forming in groups and hubs and communities, and they're connecting with like-minded people, whether it's in person or whether it's online. And this is the grassroots movement. Remember, the Aquarius energy is grassroots up. It's local, ordinary people coming together with like minds and building from the bottom up. So it's here right now, and frequency, our frequency self-selects our future, if you like. Our frequency is the entry card to these higher dimensions. So really, in answer to this, when people say, you know, when's it all going to change and what's the future? Well, the future doesn't exist yet. The future is ether. It's just ether. But what is very helpful with astrology, I mean, in my first book, I talked a lot about this, and, you know, Pluto's theories and a lot of the theories of the ancient Greeks in general was that God or divine intelligence was obviously at the higher level, and then kind of one step down from that was the planets, the archetypes, and these are our building blocks of our reality and our deepest parts of psychic functioning. So in any moment, every moment is unique, which is why your birth charts for all of you are unique. But in any moment, we have archetypal scaffolding, let's say, or an archetypal skeleton. So we have a structure of meaning that the astrology gives us. Astrology clearly gives us the pattern, there's no doubt about that. But what puts the flesh on the bones of that skeleton is our frequency. It's our frequency that makes that archetypal skeleton or structure come into reality and start to form into reality. And it does that depending on our individual frequency, depending on our collective frequency. And another analogy I've used all through my work is the sheet of music. You know, your birth chart or any moment in time is a unique sheet of music. So it gives us, again, the pattern, but we can choose our frequency in our lives as to how we play that. We can just butcher it with a tin spoon on a rusty box, or we can play with the London Philharmonic. And every single moment in time, every chart enables magnificence. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because so much depends on the frequency. So we're pulling our future out of the ether, out of, you know, the earliest sparks of plasma forming around these blueprints, if you like, in the archetypal structure, the sheet of music. So every, hope I'm making sense here. So every planet has archetypal meaning. That means it has a core symbolism, but it's like a multifaceted diamond in that there are many possibilities. And remember that astrology is a language of mathematical probability. It has many probabilities coming from it, which means that there's never just one set timeline of the future. There are always multiple timelines. And I'd say even more, because the bandwidth, the frequency for humanity is expanding day by day. I mean, I know that. And you can, as I said in the past, measure that with a pendulum. But so let me offer up just one single archetype as an example. Let's take Neptune. Neptune moved into its own sign of rulership, Pisces, in 2011. And it will stay there. It won't exit Pisces completely until 2026. I was talking in an interview about this the other day with Kathy Rose. Now, if we look at the symbolism of Neptune, it's very ethereal. So at its highest expression, it's to do with the connection to source, the connection to the divine. It's to do with unconditional love. It's to do with healing. It's a beautiful, fine, just ether energy. It's not tangible. It's very linked to photography and to film, which is why it has a close connection to the media. It also is linked to illusion because of that. You know, think of photography and film, it can be illusion. It's also disillusion because it can be quite foggy in its less positive expression. You know, things not being clear or people not wanting them to be clear, that kind of thing. So also it has links to drugs and medicines. It has links to altered states because of this, you know, wafty quality. So it has links to meditation and psychosis and hypnosis. So all of these things, some lower, some higher in the expression of Neptune. So you may be living that Neptune in terms of its highest expression. You might be trying you on a spiritual path. This is very much about our spiritual evolution, which has been really kicked along since 2011, 2012, and will continue for many, many years. But are you connecting into that? Are you trying to connect to source or have a sense of the divine and the sacred in your life? Or are you addicted to drugs? You know, and that's no judgment. It's just a different expression of Neptune. But that's the kind of the latitude we have in the expression of every single archetype. And we have that individually and we have that collectively. So I hope that helps a little bit when people say, you know, what does the future hold? Because astrology for me can't predict particular events, but it predicts the quality of the energy, the pattern, the timing. That's what astrology is very good at. But coming back to this full moon, it's a very creative full moon as well. We have Mercury trining Neptune here. Mercury in Cancer, Neptune in Pisces. This is highly imaginative and creative. We have this ongoing conjunction between Venus and Mars. So it's very good for romance. It's in a conjunction, but now Mars has moved to 26 of Leo and Venus is at 2 of Virgo. So it's another out of sign conjunction. So, but wonderful if this falls in your 5th house or your 7th house, because those are the relationship houses. And again, if you get the chart in the videos, you'll know how to work that out. So we have a lot of what's fascinating here is end of the month, we have 4 planets changing sign. We have a lot of planets kind of end of one sign, beginning of another. We have out of sign aspects, quite a lot of out of sign aspects here. So this is, to me, all echoing the past and the future. And also Saturn-Uranus, the dominating square for this year, dominating aspect, is the past and the future, the old and the new. So that's why this is such a pivotal time. You know, we're in this crucible of choice, this crucible of choice, and be wise, be conscious in your choices, because the choices that we're all making at this time are the biggest choices I believe we will ever make in our lives, by a mile. That's how I personally feel, because the times are so big. So be wise and conscious in your choices, keep your vision high, and as I said in a recent video, remember that the light is the game changer and love is the checkmate. So a lot in there today, an awful lot happening, a lot of dynamic energy, a lot of energy of change. And even if you just stay in peace, in joy, in love, even if you just stay in those very positive high frequency energies, you will be helping the collective, because you'll be adding to the positivity rather than detracting. You will be helping to shift the frequency and the timelines. So a lot in there, as I say, particularly think about the Neptune in Pisces archetype and the richness of that and how that's working in society. And if you want more information about my books, my teaching videos, very long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. God bless and bye for now.